It's 4% a la carte service, essentially.
Yeah.
So meaning 4% is the basics, right? And then he's going to go out there and do, if he needs to go and fix a toilet, he's charging you for that,
Yeah.
right?
Welcome back to the REI Hot Seat. We have Jacob Campineer.
Good morning.
Here as always. Yeah, good morning or evening, depending on when you're watching this.
Yeah, I guess so.
We're talking about more off-market or on-market?
Off-market.
Off-market properties. Yep. And
we're back at it again.
This one is a multiplex in Hamilton. I think we're 12 units.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I've been sent the numbers, and we're going to go through it. But before we dig in, Jake, just tell us what this deal is and give us a high level.
Yep. So building in Hamilton, 12 units, like you said, brick and concrete.
Is it purpose-built?
Purpose-built, flat roof. It's interesting. If you go into the inside, all the hallways, the floor's like that polished aggregate. So it looks like a high school floor.
I feel like that's kind of coming back. Yeah, the old elementary school
like
floors.
you go into the bathrooms, yeah. So it looks like that. So it's a really it's solid concrete, right? Really, really solid building. And basically everything. This is a turnkey operation here, right? So I wanted to bring this because we usually don't talk too much about fully turnkey deals.
Yeah, this was a unique one. Yeah, being fully turnkey is. I mean, it's not really something that's that common, and a lot of our community doesn't want to do it because they don't want to be in with the 25%. But is there an angle not to be in with 25% here?
There is on this, right?
Yeah.
So that's why this one's pretty cool.
So
yeah, because and I agree, right? Like I like turnkey operation because it's good for people who are busy. It's good for the doctors. It's good for the so many people say, hey, I want like pre-construction condominiums because it's hands off.
Hands
right?
off, yeah.
This could be a hands-off investment.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't make it a bad investment, right? And I know in our circles, everybody goes value add. But I have another circle that is more of a turnkey circle.
It's all who you're hanging out with. Like if you're hanging out with the people who are like trying to make real estate their wealth, then that's what you're going to find. If you're hanging out with people who already have wealth and they just want a place to put it, then this makes more sense.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Rather than getting a 4% mutual bond.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Mutual fund isn't
mutual
gonna,
fund. Yeah. Like I'd rather invest in this building. I'll tell you that right now. So, so it is a turnkey operation. Basically, over the last couple of years, it's had all the capex were done. So there's new boilers, high efficiency boilers in the building.
Any windows done?
New windows, new
roof is done.
Everything.
Yeah, those are the big three. Is there anything else I'm missing that would?
Pretty much.
Plumbing. It's
plumbing
all
and wiring was updated.
So it's all like ABS.
Not brand new, but it was updated from cast, and it's not knob and tube. Let's say that, right? Like it's all updated.
So there's nothing in the foreseeable future that's going to have to be fixed from what you can tell.
Like the major capex items are done. I have proof of that. Out of 12 units, all but 2 have been renovated.
Okay.
Top like condo grade renovation, right? So it's
a really nice building.
Really nice building.
And is there parking?
There is parking, so we get paid parking there. There's not enough parking for
it's
all
not
the
owned.
Units.
It is owned. So
it is owned, but you don't have 12 spots. I think you have 6 spots. I think.
And like, what type of area in Hamilton is this?
On the mountain.
On the mountain. Okay. So.
Close to Javinsky Hospital, close to Concession.
Okay.
So, in my books, at least as far as Hamilton goes, I would say AAA area for Hamilton. Yeah.
All right, so looking at some of the numbers at a high level, let's just take a look at the rent roll real quick. We've got, looks like 17, does this sound right? We got some units at like 17, 1500, 1750, and then a couple that are obviously the ones that are not renovated are like 750. So those are the potentials for increase over time. There's probably going to be a natural turnover.
Yeah, and those are legacy tenants.
Yeah.
Let's not sugarcoat it. Right?
Yeah, they're not interested in leaving.
They're not interested in leaving. They've been approached. They're not interested in leaving. So you're taking this building over. You're bringing these guys with you, right? Yeah. They are decent tenants. They pay on time. Mm-hmm. They keep a clean unit. They're older, right? It's not like, junky tenants or anything like that. So that's okay. But yes, you do have these 2 units. And yes, over the next 5 years, are they going to move?
Maybe not.
Retire, have to go to retirement home, whatever it may be.
Could
maybe,
happen.
But that's not the angle here, right? We're not talking value add. It's turnkey.
Yeah, so this is more of the turnkey buyer. Just going over that for context. So that $17,760 a month works out to be our $213,000 in a year. There's also some other income here, some laundry and parking. Are those sort of verified numbers?
Yep.
Okay, so we've got $2,103,000.
Well, as much as you can verify laundry.
As much as you can verify laundry. I feel like a lot of times those quarters and loonies go missing.
They just happen to disappear.
They just happen to not be there. Okay, so then we've got $213,000 after a 2% vacancy allowance on this one. And so reserved for management, we've got an $8,500 here at 4%. I feel like that's a little light if you're bringing in leasing, but because you're going to pay a leasing fee on top.
No, so the management here, I did speak to my property manager in the area. That's what their rate would be.
4%, but plus leasing.
It's 4% a la carte service essentially.
Yeah.
So meaning 4% is the basics, right? And then he's going to go out there and do. If he needs to go and fix a toilet, he's charging you for that, right? But here's the thing, and I wanted to talk about this actually, right? So that I feel is the better property management structure for a turnkey building, right?
Sure.
Because again, all those CapEx items are done. Like what's the major thing here? Leasing.
Leasing is going to be your biggest expense.
And you're still going to be cheaper than going with a realtor if you lease through this guy.
Well, and I think the other thing is, your rents are already up there. You're going to probably turn over 25% of your building a year. Mm-hmm. So maybe you just build that into your numbers. So I'm going to pay, 1 month's rent on, my new leases at 25%. I used to build it into my numbers for my houses. If I wanted to know really how profitable they would be, especially with the student ones, it's usually turnover every 2 to 3 years on average. So, it could be, I hear people say 25% a year. I don't know how accurate that ends up being. But
not usually.
Probably depends on how old the building is.
Yeah.
Newer stuff probably doesn't turn over as much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a reserve for structural maintenance at $10,000. We've got realty taxes at $27,000. Hydro and water, which is actually redundant because hydro is electric and water. But I get what you mean.
No, there's actually an error in there, I believe, because if you go down further, you'll see water and sewer.
Okay, yes, I do.
Yeah, so there's an error down in that sheet.
All right, so which one is it?
No, so hydro's electrical.
Oh, okay, and then water and sewer is separate. Okay, so this is just electric.
Mm-hmm.
The whole hydroelectric, right? Hydro means like hydroelectric, water-driven electric.
Where did that come from?
That's a total Canadianism.
That's not used anywhere else?
No. If you say that to an American, they'll look at you funny.
What's going on?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Like most, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but most cities or municipalities in Ontario, at least, don't they bill it separately?
Well, that's what I do think it came from. Is it's billed together by a lot of electrical companies. Bill water and sewer.
They bill it together.
Yeah, like in London. In London, it's all billed as one.
Right.
Yeah.
What about Burlington? What do they do in Burlington? It is billed together.
Yeah, every other month. Yeah.
Okay, because I've never. Yeah, I don't get water bills. You're right. It's a gas bill and it's a hydro bill.
Yeah, so in every other month they have the water.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now we've gone through that. So yes, I think that's where it came from, but it's super weird to anybody who's not Canadian hearing it. So janitor, superintendent, it's nice that they have that. I like that. There's a lot of things in this expense list that you could easily have left off, and I like it when a seller provides this stuff.
Well, so we're providing it for a couple of reasons, Andrew.
Did you do this or did the seller?
I did this.
Okay, that's right.
With the seller's guidance.
So you ran it by them.
So basically what we did with this performa is we underwrote this performa based on CMHC standards.
Gotcha, and I like that.
So we literally grabbed the CMHC standards and we went copy paste.
Yeah.
Right. So all the things where you see $850 a door for maintenance, 2%.
That's what CMHC's budgeting.
That's what CMHC is going to mandate. Right.
Yeah.
So instead of, because the angle here is CMHC MLI Select. Right?
Yeah.
So instead of showing you half of that and then you thinking you're going to get X and then we go to CMHC and I go, well, never mind, your cash flow's nowhere near that, or this is not what CMHC will approve. There's no point in that. All right. There's really no point in that. Like I feel we're getting a good value for the building because there's a structure in place that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the sellers have gone through and done a whole bunch to get it to this point.
Yeah.
Right.
So we talked about this off camera, but these sellers were already thinking MLI Select and now they've decided to sell. So they were already in the process to get MLI Select for financing on this building.
They're already working through it. Supposedly they have an LOI. I haven't seen it, but that can be assumed.
Yeah, so basically somebody would step into this, buy the building, and take over. So they already had an appraisal done and all that stuff?
Yep.
So presumably...
So all the values are there. We're very confident with this deal structure.
Yeah.
For somebody to come pick it up.
And the appraisal would support the value they're asking?
My understanding is yes.
Okay. So basically this is more than, and I look at it, this is more than just an acquisition of a building. This is an acquisition of a solution. It comes with the financing, and it's weird to think of debt as an asset, but it almost is, depending on the terms.
Well, in this case, especially with current market rates,
Yeah, and we're going to get into the rates of what we think this will be. So I have in here, we have a miscellaneous of 2,100. So we've got a 3.3 asking price here, price per unit $275, and a 5% cap rate. So MLI Select is the angle here. So here's where it gets interesting. MLI Select, you're thinking 85% will be approved potentially. It can go even higher, can't it?
It can. So let's talk about that for a minute. So MLI Select can go up to 95% loan to value.
That's wild.
Yeah. Right. So literally 5% down, which is crazy. It's very rare we see that. We usually say, okay, it can go to 90. Or 85 is kind of the typical.
But a lot of times what the lenders programs in their own DCR will cause you to cut it back, so you won't actually get it.
And that's exactly where I was going with it, right? So the number that's most important in this case is the debt coverage ratio, DCR, right? And you'll see that in the performance.
Yeah, so this is why we're landing at 85.
All my performers have it.
Because you have to hit 1.1, right?
With MLI, you have to hit 1.1.
Yeah.
With traditional CMHC, it's 1.2.
Yeah.
And that's similar to institutional financing, 1.2, 1.225.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So, and it also depends on the asset class, right? So if we're looking at mixed use, then they're going to run their debt coverage ratios differently, right? So the residential, they're going to run at a 1.2, but the commercial, they're going to want at a 1.3.
Okay.
1.35.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So
it's a blended. Yeah.
So do your research on this, and I always, we do training with the team on this, and I explain this to my clients a lot. It's such an important number because within reason, we can kind of figure out exactly what the financing is going to look like before we even put an offer on.
And this is always what I said about investment real estate. So not just commercial, but when you start valuing things based on their cap rate and based on their income and expenses, you can really start to understand within some basic parameters where value should be and where your loan amount is going to be. Most likely, you won't know for sure, but you can see the patterns. And then you can kind of make some assumptions. Assumptions can be wrong, but
always, right? But that's actually why I got into commercial real estate. Funny enough, because I used to do residential when I first started.
Yeah,
and I think the part that bothered me the most was
too unpredictable. It's subjective.
It's such a subjective value, and that bothered me, right? Because it was, I have interlock in a swimming pool.
No,
my neighbor doesn't. But
it's all emotional.
To some people it is. To some people it's not. Right. So when you're sitting there trying to appraise a house, you're going, okay. Throw a dart at it and go, okay, that number looks good.
Yeah, all you can do is look at what the 3 that sold before, because you know that everybody else is looking at those 3 that sold before, which is to some degree reliable.
And then with investment, right, you can ask any of my clients, like I'll walk in there and I'll go, within 20 grand, here's your number.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is the number where someone was going to buy it because this is where it makes sense. Mm-hmm. We've looked at comparables. The per door is in the range and the cap rate is in the range.
Yeah.
And I love that because I can walk in confidently and say, here's your number. And even if you try for higher, you're going to probably end up at that number. There's usually the number that works.
It becomes a lot more predictable. And I liked that when I used to flip quite a few student rentals. I formed a company for this and, we'd push them through. And I was always very comfortable with it because I knew that if I could just achieve X rents, that I could justify this price. Yeah. And that's how I approached it. Yep. So it makes it a lot easier when you're trying to figure it out versus if you're just flipping houses onto the market. It feels like you're way more at the whims of the market.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and does somebody like this paint color? Do they like that vanity?
And that's it, right?
Yeah.
The staging to one person looks great. To another person, they hate it.
So that is the nice part. Anyway, we digress. Anyway, so 85% first mortgage here we're figuring, which gets you into that debt coverage ratio. So debt coverage, this sheet explains it well. Net operating income over your debt service, which is 12 months of mortgage payments. Mm-hmm. So 1.1, you achieve that. Big thing helping you to achieve that at such a high loan to value is the 50-year amortization. With a 4.25% rate. That's realistic?
So 4.25 is realistic. That's where deals are getting done right now.
With MLI
for
Select.
MLI Select. Okay. The 50-year AM, that's up for debate right now.
Okay,
right?
So they might not.
The sellers have given me the 50-year AM. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming their LOI had a 50-year
but it might not come in.
And
if it didn't, all it's going to do is it's going to claw back your 85 and it might be more like 80.
And you're going to go to a 45-year.
Yeah, so you can see right here on the sheet, if it goes 45, now we're under our 1.1 debt coverage ratio, so we'd have to start pulling back, and this is what the banks do, pulling back the loan to value until you satisfy again. So then you got to go down to 83%.
Yep, there you go.
So what does that mean? Well, let's just look at our down payment amount. So to do this deal, so if somebody had some money sitting aside, looks like $630,000 gets it done.
Right. And at 85, I think you were sitting almost at 4 or 550 or something.
Yeah, let's just put it back there at 85 for a second. And we'll go back to the 50-year AM. And 565. So, that's actually doable for a lot of people. Like I think a lot of professionals, especially the people with no time, you're not going to go out and burr. This might be perfect for you. You pay somebody to manage it. You can acquire the asset and then hopefully have a hands-off sort of approach. But the question here is, will the sellers cooperate long enough for the buyers to get that financing, or do they have to close and then refinance?
Well, so here's the thing, right? Moving away from this deal, just to talk about that structure, because this is something that we run into quite a bit. We have that conversation because it's challenging, right? So if the seller's underwriting it, the seller's expecting the return based off of that math, right? The MLI Select math, this, the 85%, then they have to understand that you have to give somebody that time to do it, right? You can't.
So they're knowledgeable sellers.
You can't come to to your listing agent or whoever it may be and say, okay, you can get MLI Select on this,
but not allow them the time,
and then not allow them the time. So then you say what? Okay, maybe we close with a bridge.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so I just went through this on a different deal.
So you close with that lender, but not on MLI.
Correct. So you'll close with the lender, and they'll support. And in some cases, they actually support 85% loan to value on the bridge.
Because they're expecting MLI to come.
And they're basically underwriting the whole MLI program before you even firm up. But you don't have enough time to close on it, kind of thing. Right? Okay. So they'll give you a 6 month to a year bridge.
Can we do you know any lenders that are doing this?
All the time. I do it all the time.
Like if I went to, what's the one? I feel like a lot of commercial uses First National.
Yeah. So First National does that.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like they're just so popular for that.
Yeah. They have a great kind of mid market financing.
Yeah.
Right. They're really good at that 5, 6 million, 2 million, 3 million range. Right. Like that's really their sweet spot, or at least from my experience. I don't know if anybody from First Nat's listening.
Yeah. You get into the other.
If I'm wrong, put it in the comments.
sometimes I feel like it's just that department. Like I remember dealing with TD for commercial financing, and they'd be like, "Oh, you have to speak with this team for that price range." They have a specific team for each price range.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But so going back to it, so yes, you can look at doing a bridge, but understand that the bridge is going to cost money.
Yeah.
Right. Higher interest rate.
Yeah.
There's obviously a fee to put the bridge in place.
Yeah. So you're going to have to build that into your numbers. Yeah.
So we recently went through a case like this on a deal where, the seller wanted X purchase price. My buyer client was willing to pay that purchase price, but they wanted the time to go through and do the value. So what we did is we reverse engineered it, and we said, okay, so if the seller still wants their price, but we have to go get a bridge, what's that going to cost us? And in this particular price, this particular case was actually $150,000 to go and do a bridge, interest for the year and the fees to do the bridge. So I went back to the seller and I said, hey, you got two options here, right? We'll give you your asking, and we'll close in 120 days or whatever to get our bridge, or to get our financing, or you give us the bridge, but you reduce your price by $150,000. And we'll close in 30 days.
So the seller could provide the bridge if they had no financing.
No, there's not the seller. This was through a bank. But we were willing to go get the bridge and close in 30 to 60 days.
And then just give them less money.
But we need $150K off.
Yeah.
Right? And at the end of the day, they actually decided to give us the time and keep.
I love just giving sellers options. Yeah, the either or. I swear it works. You give a seller an option.
But it's such a reasonable approach.
Yeah.
And again, it's not subjective. We're not going in there being like, well, I'm going to be paying this because I think that.
Yeah.
It's literally, I show the sellers the math. Here's the performa. I bring this to performa to them.
Yeah.
And I say, let's work through this together. Right? Like we have, it's $150,000 more for us to pay on top of this does not make this deal work.
Yeah.
So we got to have that time, or you got to reduce the price.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's great.
Just show that.
Yeah. I mean, Jake, I've said this to you before, like, you the way you approach this stuff, like it's clear you've done this a bunch. Like you've done a lot of these situations and you just learned by being in them, right? That's the big difference. Like I think a lot of and I'm not trying to toot your horn here, but just a lot of people who don't do like commercial all the time or don't get into these deals all the time. They just don't see all this nuance.
It's just a different mentality, right?
Yeah.
And it's from doing it over and over again. Plus I love numbers.
Yeah.
Like on a Sunday morning, I'll go to the cafe and I'll and I'll do a performa.
I used to do that a lot more.
It's fun.
Yeah, just before kids and the million different things that I do, I was crunching deal numbers every day.
Yeah.
Not as much. I'd more do it on the show and I think we're, as time passes, I become pretty good at just like high level stuff. Okay, high level, does this make sense?
Yeah.
And
you need both.
Yeah.
You need the deep analysis, but you also need high level, because
you start with the high level and then you get into
can't look
deep.
at every deal at a microscopic level. You got to look at 10,000 feet and say, okay, well, where are we at with this? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you dive into this. But anyhow, just jumping back onto this deal here. So let's say we do get the 50-year RAM. How much do you need? How much cash?
It's $565 to close, and that composes the CMHC premium fees, legals at $5,000, which might be a touch light, property reports, and then we've got a broker fee, and then nothing for the lender fee. So CMHC is not going to. Well, you already have a CMHC fee down there.
Yeah, the fee's already.
And
in
then
there.
land transfers factored in here too. That's good.
Yeah.
And then down payment at $495.
Yeah, perfect. So that pretty much sums it up, right? So if let's say you've refied your house, let's say you sold something recently, you're sitting on $500K, you're potentially looking at a purchase of $3.3 million. Right. And
potentially that would do like $12,000 to $13,000 a year in cash flow, plus you're hoping for appreciation.
Yeah. And the cash flow scenario here, let's not shy away from it. I know it's light.
Yeah.
That's up to the buyer's prerogative. If they feel they need to adjust the deal in a way to get that cash flow up, go for it, right? But this is the way that I wanted to present it, to say, what's the minimum amount of cash you need to do a deal of this size? Right.
Yeah.
And it's a substantial deal. We're not talking a sixplex. We're not talking,
Yeah. No, it's a good building. I mean, I think this is the type of thing that long term could do really well. And then as rents keep going up, which face it, they're going to, in the long run anyway, the cash flow is probably going to grow over time on this one.
There's only one way from this. It's going
in my experience, that's the way the cash flow goes on buildings. The longer you hold it, the more your cash flow goes.
And this is something that personally interests me.
Yeah.
Because of how much we got going on. Right?
Yeah.
I'm working in real estate every day.
Yeah.
All right. We have the campground stuff. We're always running. Like, I can't imagine right now me going and doing like a burr project or something where I got to manage trades and things. So for me, and that's why, like, I like these turnkey buildings. I don't always want to just look at value add or burrs. Let's look at a whole spectrum of what realistically is out there.
For sure. One way to do it, right? Like there's other things. Like, I mean, my approach is more, I'll still be the active, but I'm going to be way more reliant on a team.
Yep.
And both can work, but they're all work to set up.
Yep.
That's the big thing. So Jake, we'll just remind people that they go to the link in the description of this video.
Yes, sir.
And then when they enter their information, somebody on your team will get in touch with them.
Yep. Shawnette or Jane will call you.
Okay, so somebody on the team would call, and then this would basically be for people who want to get into opportunities like this, or they want an opportunity to work with you and find something that would work for them.
Yeah, you have an initial intake call.
Yeah.
Right. We chat, have a friendly conversation. I basically will then reach out to you after the fact once we've kind of just made the introduction. Yeah. You and I will have a chat, and then from there, if you're interested in this particular building, we dive right into it, right? We've already covered my kind of initial introduction conversation.
Yeah.
And then we just go from there. So yeah, if anybody's interested in this, similar product to this, or something that we've spoken about in the past, sign up. We'll reach out and have a chat. Yeah,
and if you made it this far, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and there's a wealth of knowledge that we've gone through, many deals we've analyzed. Mm-hmm. So if you want to just get a flavor for the type of stuff that we've been trying to show what's on the market or what's available or what's on the off-market market, and
just what's out there.
Yeah, what's out there.
Because there's and.
Because it's not a perfect market, right?
It's not.
It's a difficult market. Ontario is a difficult market to make things work, but there's a reason we live here, and there's a lot of people who want to invest here. So
that's it, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we want to show you a medley of what's going on out there. Mm-hmm. So it's an exciting deal, and something like this, I just want to note before we head out today, right? So something like this would be a great deal where if you let's say you sold something recently, you got $1 million, maybe not even $1 million. Let's say $750, right? You use $550 to buy something like this, and then you throw the rest into, let's call it like a passive mortgage investment. Mm-hmm. So now you have your cash flow, and you have a solid asset is not going anywhere.
Yeah,
that's kind of my structure. If I was to buy this,
you'd want to balance it off.
I would balance it off with a bit of that passive mortgage investing. So that just came to my head. I wanted to say it, but
cool.
Thanks for having me on, Andrew.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.